everyone, welcome to this new podcast, Luxurynsight, in partnership with fashionnetwork.com. Today we're very glad to welcome Lutz Huelle, who's a fashion designer and head of the eponymous label Lutz Huelle, previously senior designer at Martin Margiela and a consultant for a lot of other amazing fashion labels. Lutz will share with us his ideas and visions about being an independent designer in Paris. So have fun and a great podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Godfrey Deeny with our latest Luxurynsight and Fashion Network podcast. And I'm very happy to say we have one of the great designers of Paris joining us today, Lutz Huelle.
Hi, Godfrey. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Lutz is a master of what some people call assemblage fashion, the blending of ideas and fabrics in unexpected ways, which has been a pretty gigantic trend in the industry in the last few years. And he's an important independent designer who cut his teeth at the most famous conceptual house of them all, Martin Margiela, before creating his own brand here in the Marais. But let's begin at the beginning. You were born in Cologne.
Yes.
When did you first get the idea of being a designer?
Well, to be honest with you, I was never actually interested in fashion that much from the beginning. What I was always interested in was popular culture. I was a music fanatic. I spent my afternoons at home listening to the radio, listening to music. I love cinema. So it was always about popular culture in general, and kind of fashion became just one aspect because I was so into British pop music and the way people were dressing and I mean stars were dressing, and then this whole idea of pop culture, subculture. So I came to fashion via like a general interest in pop, really. I mean in popular culture, really.
What did you study initially?
I did, I studied fashion at St. Martin's, but I kind of spent, before I started studying, I kind of spent 2 years in Hamburg doing not much else but going out all the time. So that was, if you want to call that studying, that's what I studied initially.
After your gymnasium?
Yeah, I just did, I mean, at the time we had to do social service in Germany because we had to go to the army still. But then I went to live
Which is what officially did in Hamburg.
Well, I did that in Cologne, and then I kind of needed to get away from everything, and I moved to Hamburg, and then I just worked in a store during the day, just selling clothes, really, And then I went out all night, and I did that for 2 years, and then after 2 years, I kind of got a little bit panicky, thinking if I don't change something, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Because it's also really nice to go out all the time and stay out all night. So I thought I need to get away from Hamburg, because also it's very easy to go out all the time if you have friends that do the same thing. So I needed to make a break. So I decided to move to London. And I applied at St. Martin's. So that's how that happened.
Yeah. And can you sketch?
Well, I couldn't sketch very well at the time, to be very honest. But I did a foundation course at St. Martin's where you do everything. You do.
They accepted you first for that?
Yes, they did. Foundation course where you do everything. Like you do a week of photography, you do a week of sculpture, of painting, of everything. Which is
how long did it last?
It's amazing. It lasts 1 year.
But why do you think they accepted you in the first place?
Oh God! To be honest, I think they saw I absolutely wanted to go. I think it was maybe they saw the passion. I don't know. I wasn't a born illustrator, but I was very passionate about their creative work in general, and I was so interested in everything. And maybe that's what they saw. I couldn't tell you right now why they took me, but they did. They did take me for that year foundation, and then during foundation you do all these different projects, and then you kind of you go into a direction. And once that year was over, it was clear for me that I wanted to go and do fashion at St. Martin. So that's how it happened. I then had another interview, and then.
And then you did a master's, a 2-year master's.
Well, I did a bachelor for 3 years, and during that bachelor, we have to do placements, like stage. And I did one in Margiela in my first year at college, and then they asked me to come back the next season, and I did another one, and then they asked me whether I wanted to come and work in Paris, and I took a week of thinking about it, but I wanted to finish college first, and then say, okay. I said to them, if you still want me when college is finished, then I'll be happy to come, but I can't leave. Also, I wanted to stay in London because it was such an amazing place at the time, and I really felt so happy there. So I did.
Where did you live in London?
I lived first in Brixton.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. for a long time, and then weirdly enough, I had a friend who came to work in London who needed a place to stay. So I moved close to Baker Street, Gloucester Place, and I ended up, which the weirdest thing was, I ended up in a Centre Point House. You know that big building right behind it, which is basically, I mean, at the time it was just drug dealers or whatever. So that was funny, but it was literally 2 minutes from college, so I could fall out of bed in the morning and roll into college in 5 minutes, and that was.
What year are you talking about here?
I started the BA in 1992, and I graduated in 1995.
So then eventually you did start working for Margiela?
Yes, I did. I mean, as soon as college was finished, I called them and I said, I'm available now if you still want me.
And you joined. Yes. What was it like to work for Martin Margiela himself?
You know what? He was a very lovely person, really. He's very passionate. He was super friendly. He was very open. I loved the work. I loved his work, so it was very easy for me to also go there. The atmosphere was amazing because it was a very small place. There was one other person working on the collection, and then it was me, and there was no one else. So it was
for men's and women's.
Well, men's didn't exist at the time yet.
You only did women's.
Yeah, I mean, it was just women's, and it was the artisanal, all the stuff that we did in the atelier, the remakes, and I was responsible for that part and the knitwear, and there was this other girl called Nina who was responsible for the fabric part, and that's it. So it was literally just Nina, Martin, and me, and the studio, which is, it's just a very small company, and it was really, really lovely. So it was great.
And the studio, how many? He had like proper people making up the collection. Were they in the studio or no?
Well, no, because everything was.
He had.
Well, there was an atelier for the artisanal part, but the collection was done in Italy at the time. It was. They had a license deal with the factory, so we had to go to the factories and work there. But the actual studio was just 3 people.
Did he was famous for using unexpected fabrics? Jute and refine, right? He sort of upcycled before anyone knew what the term.
Yes.
But how much did he influence you?
You know what? The reason why I did a placement there, I wanted to go there, was because it was so close to what I understood. He was dressing the same people that I knew. So it was very easy for me to understand it. These people, I didn't really know that many people at the time who were dressing in Montana, for example, or in Mugler. Yeah. But I knew loads of people who were dressing in Margiela. And the thing is that until I came across Margiela, I always thought I didn't have a place in fashion in a way, because I didn't, those extremely glamorous clothes, in a way, at the time, they didn't correspond to me. I didn't know anybody who dressed like that, unless it was like evening or whatever. But what I was interested in was always how people dress in any kind of situation, during the day. How do people dress? What makes dress in general? So Martin was one of the few. There were other people at the time. There was Zuli Bett and Véronique Leroy, and there was a whole gang of like Jean Colonna. But Martin was really it was so easy for me. It was so close to me. So I think we just had the same taste, and they must have seen that in me, because otherwise they wouldn't have asked me to come and work.
Of course.
So that's how that happened.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed for 3 years.
And then?
Well, I kind of stopped a little abruptly because, to be honest with you, there was always an amazing atmosphere, but then because suddenly the company became bigger and there were more people working there, and it wasn't the same anymore. And I thought, I had such an amazing time. Maybe it's just time to do something else, So I left. I didn't know what to do. I called St. Martin's, as my tutor at St. Martin's, Willie Walters. And I said to her, I've just left my job. I don't have any money. Is there anything I can do? So she made me come over to London to teach. Also, I'd been missing London so much, so that was amazing to go back to London, and teach. So I did that for a while. And then I started trying to find freelance work, really, just to try and earn money again, or just to be able to pay my rent. And I did that. I found a place in Italy where I was working as a freelance designer for a collection.
For whom?
Oh, it was called Les Copains at the time. I don't know. Yeah. So that was one thing.
And that paid the bills.
Yeah, it did. And then I was doing that for, let's say, a year. And then my friend David, who at the time was working at Rochas, he kind of said, maybe I'd like to do something else, because he'd been there for a long time also. So we kind of started thinking, why don't we just try out something? And that's what we did. I started doing a collection on the side in a way, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to put these things together, and we'll show them to people and see what happens. And that's what we did.
And where did you do that? Where did you show your first?
It was in the studio of a friend of ours called Fabrice Ibert, who's an artist here in Paris. He had a studio in Rue de l'Aqueduc, which at the time was opposite in the 10th, behind the Gare du Nord.
Rue de
l'Aqueduc.
Okay.
Which is opposite really our first office where we had stuff. And we had taken this. It wasn't an office. It was just a little space in a courtyard where we had taken it just to make this official. Like there was this company. So yeah, we organized the first show with literally no means at all, and you know we just thought, let's see what happens. And
what was the name of that collection? The brand name?
Lutz
already.
Yes. And that was in February 2000.
Wow.
And it was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life. But you know what? It was. It was so positive. To be honest with you, I didn't expect it. I had no idea in the end, because also you get so into this thing where you just do a collection, and then I had no idea whether it was any good or not. And then the reactions were so positive. We had buyers in front of that little office space, this studio space that we had in Rue de l'Aqueduc. I mean, at one point, Maria-Louisa took an appointment and came, and I arrived. She was standing in front of the door. I arrived, and I was so shocked to see her there that I had to turn around and leave. She did the appointment. She bought the collection. And we kind of managed to sell to a few really nice shops, and then we took it from there.
And you stayed there a while, or no? When did you move from the Marais?
Well, we moved to Rue de Rivoli, and we stayed there for 3 years.
Yeah.
It was funny because that was the office space underneath the studio of David Guetta, who used to make a lot of noise and who used to drive me mad. And then we moved to the Marais. And then we moved to the space where we are now, where we've been now.
Where are you now? You're on Rue
du Temple.
Rue du Temple, of course.
Yeah.
Tell me, from the beginning you got a very good press report. The media liked you. No.
Well, yeah. I mean, people were nice. I have to say. I mean, let's say we'd never exploded. You know, like you explode today, kind of. But people started saying nice things about us. Yeah.
And you developed a kind of following.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
In a time when magazines were important, there were many of them, and they began to cover you.
Yes. Well, I mean, we were mostly in all the independent press, which was amazing. Yeah. I mean, for example, we were in Purple loads of times, which was really amazing because it was my favorite magazine at the time as well. So that was incredible. We weren't so much in the mainstream press in the beginning. It was more like independent, alternative. I think people didn't know what to make of me in the beginning. You know, because I think one thing that happened was that when you come from Margiela, people expected everything to be a little gothic-y, you know, like kind of dark, lots of black. And I mean, I love color, and I was really interested in sportswear, and kind of the ease that sportswear has. So that first collection really was colorful, and it was kind of sporty, slightly strange, I have to say. I mean, looking back at it now, I think it wasn't what people expected, and because people thought I was Belgian, because like I was working at Margiela. I mean, even now people still think sometimes that I'm from Antwerp or from Brussels. They expected something that they didn't get in a way. So maybe that was a kind of complicated in the beginning. But in a way, it would have been horrible to kind of just go on in Martin's vein, you know. I mean, I really spent a year thinking about what I was going to do, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to go into that direction, which it would have been also so easy, just to do the same thing. So I really had to find out also if there was anything I thought I had to say, you know. So
what's the DNA of Lutz, the brand?
You know, like I said, for me it's always been about the everyday, the street, the kind of the way people dress themselves, the basics of a wardrobe, kind of everyday pieces made in a way that they look familiar but also new at the same time. I always love it when you look at something and you know what it is, but it looks like something you've never seen before. I mean, it's a difficult thing to do. It doesn't always work. But for me, it's so interesting when you have something that you can wear actually super easily, but that's still really, really special.
Who are the designers you admire?
Well, I mean, there's several, obviously. I think the biggest thing right in the beginning that I loved the most was Pierre Cardin. I was just, because there's something about that the graphicness of these silhouettes, the color, the clarity of these designs for me was really amazing. And it had such style without being forced. Like, it's really simple, huh? It's nothing complicated. It's just very simple, classic shapes, easy shapes, but they are so special. So I've always loved it. And then obviously Rei Kawakubo is a huge influence, inspiration, just because she's such an incredible woman, and just because she was the first in a way for me. I mean, apparently there was this person called France Andrévy, which I never knew, but people were talking about. But she was, for me, the first that saw women in a different way than just in a very conventional, sexy kind of way. You know, she had this thing of seeing women differently, obviously also because it's a different culture. But I mean, it was just incredible to see these clothes that didn't...
Seeing women as what, in your...
Well, just a much more open interpretation of what femininity is. Yeah. You know, so I mean, one thing is to show your body and wear tight things and be super feminine. Yeah. And another thing is to just wear really big things and have the fabric work with the body. You know, so it's less obvious. It was just something that's like she had a completely different image or vision of femininity, and it was so
some of that came into your work, that idea, not without copying her.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge inspiration, because for me it meant such freedom to say, you know what, we can dress in different ways, and there's not just one way to look properly dressed or to look respectable or whatever, you know.
Well, one thing I noticed about your collections is they have often, like in one garment, like 4 or 5 things going on. You know, they're
well, I try to avoid that.
A bit of, reference to kind of, active sportswear, Nike, Adidas, these Puma, these sort of things. Just, with the tailoring structure, and then something ceremonial almost. As if you're going to an event, then a sense that they look, faintly lived in. They're not kind of super, and then this other sense of, I don't know, not three-dimensional, obviously three-dimensional, but that kind of Escher thing that, they're a bit, you don't quite understand what you've done that's made it different, but it's there.
Yeah, but see, I love that you say that, because that's in a way is the aim, to design things that anybody could wear super easily, because like you say, they're a little bit lived in, but that's what clothes are. Mm-hmm. And I've always found it so sexy when somebody wears something that's a little bit lived in, something that kind of is slightly crumpled, that's slightly open. I'd never find it interesting if people who are dressed properly and perfectly are not interesting to me, because it just means that they follow the protocol. Mm-hmm. For me, the most touching is when people kind of put together stuff and look themselves, So that idea of mixing up things. I mean, it wasn't just an exercise in style. It was saying, why shouldn't I have a tuxedo pant that is just as easy to wear as a jogging Adidas pant? Literally. I mean, it's literally, the idea is that simple. Why should I not feel as comfortable working in front of a computer as I feel sitting at home in a sofa watching television? It's always this idea of whatever rules there are, how can I make them work for me, and in that case for other people? Now
today you have your own business you still own it all. And where do you manufacture? Where do you get it made? Do you have a license? Do you have
most of the stuff most of the clothes are made in Hungary.
Yeah, still.
Yeah.
I've been for a while.
Yeah. They're made in Hungary, and then we have several atelier studios where we do smaller productions, like little numbers, and then we have a little atelier here in Paris where we just do, if it's just 2 or 3 or 4 pieces. And also, for example, all the bomber jackets that we do with Alpha Industries, they are done in our atelier, because these are done one by one, so they have to be done by us.
You, I forget exactly when. A couple of years ago, you did worked for Del Pozzo. Tell us about that experience.
Well, that was, it was just a very unfortunate line of events, really, because they took me on just before. Well, it was 2 years ago. And it was literally just let's say before the whole COVID crisis happened.
Yeah.
But it was also that when I arrived there, they had kind of halved the staff numbers, like they had been having financial difficulties. So the idea was to not relaunch, but to just make it more real. Because what happened was they showed me the collection. They said to me, you know what do you think? And the collection was beautiful. But I said, it's absolutely amazing, but it's like a dream. I can't see that many people actually wearing this outside of red carpet and really extreme situations. So they said, well, that's exactly the case. So they took me on. I kind of started working on the first collection. While I was working on the first collection, they decided that they were going to sell the company. And then they did that, and then just shortly after, COVID happened. So it was just this thing, and let's say it took kind of a year of it's still not decided what is going to happen to the company. But I felt at one point that I needed to move on. As sad as that was, because I loved. Honestly, the people were amazing. The staff that stayed here, the studio was incredible.
They were in Madrid.
In Madrid, yeah. The craftsmanship is really amazing. So I had an amazing 6 months working with these wonderful people. And then it all kind of stopped, So and I felt like after a year, I thought I need to move on.
But you've done other collaborations you've enjoyed.
Well, I've always worked freelance for other companies, yes. Which I love doing that, Godfrey, because it gives me the possibility to see my work from outside. Because when I am in the studio in Paris all the time, I get so close to my own work. And sometimes it gets difficult to judge, But because I go and work for other companies, it's so much easier for me, because then what I do for other companies is service. But then once I get back to my own collection, I can see exactly, what kind of... It's easier for me to do several things than to just do one thing. So I've always done that.
If you Google the name Lutz Huelle, one of the things that always comes up is... He has been photographed several times by Wolfgang Tillmans. Tell me about that.
Well, Wolfgang and me went to school together in Germany. We grew up together in a way. Wolfgang, Alex, that girl that's always in the photos as well, and we were kind of best of friends in school. And when I say when I say Cologne, it's kind of slightly outside Cologne, so it was a very small place, really. In a kind of very conservative place. So we kind of became really friendly and close because we felt that we didn't belong in a way, So we kind of became really good friends, and this is how these photos happened. He's still my best. Those two are still my best friends today. We're still the closest people, and my longest and best friends.
Do you still go clubbing in Berkheim in Berlin?
Well, yes I do. I do it less now because I have less time, and to be honest with you, I need a little bit more sleep now than I used to. So sadly enough. But there you go. But yes, because it's always been such inspiration. Also, it's part of life to go out.
Do you ever regret not having stayed in London and having made your career in Paris?
That is a question that is. It's funny because for the longest time I missed London terribly. I spent literally 20 years. Wanting to go back to London, thinking I missed my friends there. I missed the atmosphere in London. And to be honest with you, for the first time ever, now I kind of don't miss it anymore. And maybe it's a general thing. I don't recognize London anymore at the moment. It's not the same place I used to know. And maybe that's just nostalgia. Maybe it's just you have become I'm living another life now. So I wouldn't have the same life that I had when I was a student in London anyway. Mm-hmm. But there's something about London that I find I just find it such a hard place at the moment. And I say this with regret because I love it so much. And to be honest with you, I have yet to meet one single English person that wasn't super friendly and nice to me. Mm-hmm. So all my experiences in London have been amazing. But there's an atmosphere in London now that I find is really harsh.
Do you think Brexit played a role?
I suppose maybe it has. I don't even know, Godfrey, if it's just a general thing. London has just become a really hard place to be.
What's the best thing about Paris from the point of view of being a designer?
Everybody comes to Paris. So literally every buyer comes to Paris. All the shows are here. I would say it's the one place where literally everybody goes. No one skips Paris. So it's still the center of the fashion universe, I would say. And also, you know what's the amazing thing about Paris is that it's such a mixture of Europe. Because it's slap in the center of everything, and it's so easy to go from Paris to Germany, from Paris to Belgium, from Paris to London, and I am such a European. I was born in Germany. I studied in England. I live in Paris. I always go to Italy to work. So for me, that is so natural to be all these things. I would hate to restrict myself. And in that case, Paris just feels like a good place to be. Because Paris is such an open place to the world. I mean, it's right in the center of everything.
What are the changes that you've most seen affect your work in terms of technology or the internet or inclusivity or sustainability in the last years that you've...
There's several things. One thing I have to say is that maybe because of social media, people have become so much more open to things. When I remember, when you spoke about I said in an interview 15 years ago that because I've always used menswear in my work. So I said in an interview, but I don't feel that women and men are so far away from each other. I think they're much closer than we always make them out to be. So I think masculinity and femininity are fleeting things, and they're fluid things. So that's why I like to put men's things, like put everything together. And at the time, it was seen as something that you can't say that. That's not true. Whereas now, that has completely changed. And I think it's also social media that made these things possible because instead of just 5 very important people deciding what people should see or not, now it's the people themselves who decide what they want to see. So it's become a completely different ballgame. And it also, from a personal point of view, from my work point of view, I've become so much more visible. Because through Instagram and Facebook, people see my work, and people who maybe didn't see it before because I wasn't so visible, they started seeing it. So it gave me a completely new audience, and it gave me, in many ways, another lease of life.
It's also surely encouraged boutiques and internationally to take people like you on and retail you, no?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because because people actually send messages on Instagram saying, do you have this jacket by this designer? So we get shops now calling and saying, but we get so many people asking for your work, so we think we should maybe, which is never the case before. Before they used to see it in other stores, or they used to talk. Now it's everything goes via social media. It's also dangerous because it gives certain companies a huge amount of power, and I'm not sure whether that's a good thing because obviously they will use that power. So I don't know how democratic this is going to stay, how long this is going to stay open and democratic. We'll see.
Do you? How many stores or many clients have you got internationally now?
Around 50.
So it's a good business, self-sustaining.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, yes. I mean, to be honest with you, we couldn't take more because I wouldn't be able to it would mean too much money up front. Also because I don't really work with the bank, so we're self-sustained. But to be honest with you, also, Godfrey, we have been in talks with people because we are looking for a partner.
Who would take a stake to invest and grow the business.
A license deal or something, just to make this also, because we can see that the demand is there, but we can't go any further because I don't want to take that risk. I can't. So it
also to maybe stage bigger shows, but you have fairly good shows, no?
Yeah,
300 or 400 people, no?
Yeah,
but they're often, your shows are often in a little obscure places,
but sometimes. I mean, the last few ones have been a little bit bigger because people have been coming more, because we have been more visible. So we have become a little bit bigger, but we have to be careful. I mean, financially, because I really do not want to go over what I can allow myself to spend,
Do you think you've become quite influential? I think so.
Well, I take that as a compliment. I would love if that's the case, but I don't think I can answer that question, Godfrey. I mean, I would love to. It's funny because sometimes I see things that we have been doing, and then it makes me really happy. I mean, sometimes people send things to me and say, "Look what they copied you," and you know what? I just take that as a compliment. If anybody it's one thing. It's nice to influence. This is something positive for me, and it also means that I've just seen something that was in the air anyway. So I don't take that I don't take it badly. But people do send things to me sometimes. Say, "Did you see?" Honestly, I don't care. I don't care. It's a compliment more than anything.
Do you think people copy you? Which brands?
I honestly, I don't.
You would.
I don't want to answer that question, and I don't want to name any brands. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And you know what? Copying, people. It's that whole idea of copying is so old anyway. No, people just take things anyway. I mean, with internet and with social media, people just take stuff.
As Karl Lagerfeld used to always say to me, Godfrey, we all shop. This is about, we often reach quite a young audience who, want to get into the fashion business. Yeah. What's your 2 or 3 bits of advice you would give someone starting out who was, thinking of going to fashion college or in fashion college, what they should do in their career?
Well, I think it is much easier nowadays to actually start because you're visible straight away. And I think if you have something to say and if you do something that's interesting or that is special or unique in any way, then you will have an audience very quickly, which is amazing. What I would say maybe is it's not so difficult to kind of start and just do it. What's much more difficult, and this is also from experience, is that once you've passed that first wave of being the next new thing, the next big thing or whatever, and then to sustain the momentum of the collection after, let's say, the first 5-6 years. This is where the real test lies. And this is, I would say to anybody, just, make sure that your work stays personal, because as long as it's personal, as long as it's yours, you'll have enough possibilities to just go on. And then if fashion turns and you're less in fashion, that's not a problem, because you'll always have your clients, you'll always have the people who like you, which is exactly what happened to us. When I fell out of favor after a few years, we still had clients, and we still had shops that liked us. So we managed to get through it because I just did what I liked. I thought, I might not be, but as long as I kind of try and stay relevant and try and do what I like, then that should be fine. And it was. So I would just say, just believe in yourself, really. It sounds stupid and banal, but that's the only thing you can do is that.
I'm going to end with a couple of questions I always ask everyone. Where were the last 3 places you went on holiday?
Oh, God.
It's often very revealing.
The last 3 places I went. God, last years you're talking about.
Before COVID, I suppose.
Right. So the last places were Quiberon in Brittany.
Oh yes, of course. Ate fish.
Yes. The year before, Koh Lanta in Thailand. And the year before, Costa Rica.
Oh, for seaside.
Costa Rica was amazing. It was literally the most amazing place.
I once asked Ray Kawakubo when I had dinner with her, and she said she went on a tour of Orthodox churches in the Carpathian Mountains of Romania.
That sounds amazing.
And when I asked Puccia Prada, she said, Patrizio Bertelli, her husband, and I took a car and we drove around Argentina. We did 2,500 miles in 2 weeks.
That sounds amazing.
Both sound pretty good holidays.
In that case, I have to say, I went to Costa Rica and I did a tour of the local hotel bar, and it was absolutely amazing.
Very good. Lutz Huelle, it's been a great pleasure.
Thank you so much. To me as well.